Good day. I'm Martin Gago with Market Radius Research. It's Wednesday, December the 14th, and we've got CEO Hector Bremner of Avricore Health joining us today. Avricore is a health information service provider helping make primary care information more accessible, available, and relevant for the patient. I've been a shareholder and friend for several years and closely following the company's progress. While the company has not had a lot of news flow this year, they have moved their business forward considerably, setting the stage for what I suspect will be an exciting 2023. Hector is going to give us a quick overview on the company as a refresher and for new participants. Then we're going to dig into some of the company's developments this year, and we will be opening up things for Q&A from the audience. But please remember, this is neither recommendation nor investment advice. We're here to learn about Avricore. Hector, thanks for joining us. It's good to have you back. And how are things going?
It's great to be here. I'm glad that you're doing this even. You know, the soccer game is on, and I'm sure everybody's. I've got it on the screen. So if I suddenly make a jolt or a move, we're just keeping one eye on that. But it's an exciting time. The year is come to a close, and it's been a great year for us. Like you said, we've always said, we're not going to focus on news releases. We're going to focus on advancing the business. And, when we say something, it's going to be substantive. And I think that what we've been able to accomplish this year, we're immensely proud of. And I think what we have in the hopper is really exciting for the year ahead and what we're going to be talking about. So lots of exciting things to come, but I'll do my best to kind of quickly recap for people here where we're at and what we're doing, and then hopefully that'll inspire you guys to keep a close eye on us. So Avricore is the parent company. It's a publicly traded company, as you all know, and our primary focus is a technology called Health Tab, that is a wholly owned subsidiary that the company acquired before my time, in my time since joining the company in late 2019. Obviously, it's been a wild ride. The company was facing challenging times at that time. I led a refocus where we drilled down on what we think is one of the most exciting stories, and that is Health Tab, and really centered the business around it. We really got the company's finances under control, led some successive rounds, put the resources underneath it that needed to happen, and went about the business of working behind the scenes to get the business development done and achieve some landmark agreements that have never been done before, and achieve some successes that are truly groundbreaking here. And looks like France Discord's. So for those that are wondering, we are really. I opened the story with that because as we sit here now in December of 2022, it has been an incredible journey to get to this point. And the reason why I'm having these updates and these conversations with people is that you can be really excited about our story. We've delivered on everything that we said we were going to do. I think we've gone through some exceptional times, and we've weathered some storms, and we've proven that we have the discipline and the focus to get through it. And so now that we're heading into this exciting growth phase, that we're going to deliver, that we're going to get where we want to get to. So so that's kind of sets the stage, why we're so excited and why we're so much looking forward to the new year. And, and as part of that, a lot of the pieces that we often talk about as to the why we do what we do is really the reason why you want to support Health Tab and support Avricore Health. So let me just give you a quick lay of the land here as to where things are at. First of all, it's their news. Everyone's news is filled not just with Kardashian stuff, I'm sure, but it's also with healthcare challenges, right? Healthcare is a major story. Access to primary care, which is, your family doctor, is becoming more and more difficult as they retire and fewer new graduates choose general practice. They want to specialize, or they, I was giving another presentation this morning, and there was a physician who's the CEO of a therapeutics company. So, they choose a variety of ways of using their medical license, and it's not always general practice. So it's becoming more and more difficult. And this has been a trend that's emerged for a long time. It's now hitting our hospitals really hard as we see infectious disease like COVID. But this season we also saw a real influx of RSV amongst children. So here in Vancouver, the BC Children's Hospital is at a crisis level. In Alberta, Ontario, Quebec, the Maritimes, same story. So very, very challenging times. And so the healthcare system's at a breaking point. It needs to innovate. And so this is an exciting time for healthcare practitioners that have been grossly underutilized, specifically the pharmacist, to take more of a role in primary care and more of a role in the day-to-day care that we all rely on. So government has been matching that need with expanded scope of practice. So you've seen that in Alberta already. On January 1st, you're going to see that kick in Ontario. By the summer in British Columbia, we will have that. And then in the Maritimes, you'll also have an expanded scope of practice. So we're seeing government...
Hector?
Yes.
Sorry.
Yes.
What do you mean by expanded scope of practice? Can you just define that a little bit? I'm not sure everyone, who you're referring to has the expanded scope of practice.
Sure. Yeah, no, it's a good question. So the pharmacist and anybody in healthcare has limits within their license, within their professional designation as to what essentially they're allowed to do. So obviously the physician is allowed to do just about anything. And then you have nurse practitioners and nurses, et cetera, et cetera. So then the pharmacist has been largely curtailed from doing service-based work in the community pharmacy by license. So the province hasn't allowed them to practice in the services side, but that is changing. So where they were pretty much hemmed in on dispensing, which means filling prescription bottles and just handing you the prescription, they are now getting more into what is called primary care. So minor ailments, prescription refills, and chronic disease screening and management. So this is a very important development. You're not only seeing this in Canada, but America, UK, and the EU. So particularly in countries, I want to underscore, in countries with public healthcare, there's an enormous amount of pressure on those governments to address the primary care access problem. And pharmacy did so well during COVID that there is now a big push to utilize the pharmacist better. They're overtrained and underutilized, but they're going to need tools. And so we provide them those tools. And but before we talk about tools, one of the big drivers of breaking of our healthcare system, I just quickly will underscore, chronic disease, over and above infectious disease, over and above oncology, which is cancer-focused things, over and above sort of the weird and wonderful tests that you can do. I want to underscore for people that 1 in 3 Canadians is either pre-diabetic or diabetic. And about half of Canadians over 20 have a chronic disease of some kind. This is an enormous cost to healthcare, $68 billion by the last numbers. This number's probably gone up since the last numbers, and they'll be updated soon. But it's very important to understand that this is a very serious concern for governments, and they're looking to address ways to do this. Preventative health is obviously beyond just dealing with the acute outcomes of disease. They want to be able to address this through preventative measures, and it's lower cost, better outcomes for patients, and save lives. And so the pharmacy is transforming to meet this. It's not theoretical anymore. It certainly was talked about for a lot of years pre-pandemic, but in this last year alone, we've seen major announcements from almost every major global pharmacy chain where they are reinvesting in footprint to do more services on site. That means more consultation rooms. Walmart and Walgreens have both announced clinical trial divisions. Everybody's expanding into services. So this is not theoretical. This is in the process of happening. It's happening right now. And so this is a really exciting time. It's a really big blue sky. And this $1.6 trillion US global business is going through this sea change in the way that they operate. So this is incredible. This is the Airbnb moment, the Uberification of pharmacy, if you will. It's where technology and consumer demand and policy are all coming together at the right time to lead this really amazing innovation and change. And companies like ours are really built to succeed in helping them facilitate that change.
And Hector, sorry to sort of feed you
yeah,
more
no, anytime.
good talking points here, but is also the threat from like the let's call it the Amazons of the worlds, where they can send you pills in a couple hours and do all that, and it's hard for the land-based pharmacy to compete against that. So they're trying to get services to bring you in. So you pick up your pills, you buy some milk, and you
100%.
get your blood pressure, diabetes markers checked and so forth. So it's really an anchor to get the people into the pharmacy. It's not just public policy and good health, it's good business to get them in the store.
Well, exactly. A few of our advisors who are pharmacists themselves often have to interject when people in the brick and mortar pharmacy business start talking about offering more telemedicine services or more remote services. They're like, no. We're in the brick and mortar business. There's other people that are going to do that. We have physical locations. We're retailers. We still provide something absolutely critical, and that is that human to human, face to face contact. And you asked me before about scope of practice and license. There's been a lot of excitement about telemedicine over the last couple of years, particularly amongst COVID. It's very important to underscore, though, two major problems with telemedicine. One, you need the same doctors that the healthcare system already can't find. So you're limited on a human resource level to really scale it. You have the same limitations as a GP office or a hospital. The second piece is a physician. If you've ever used telemedicine, I've used it. They kind of conclude the conversation with you telling you to go to the clinic, because by license, they're not allowed to do certain things. Like they can't really make a clinical decision with you over a video chat or a phone call. By license. They're restricted. So this is another opportunity for pharmacy, where the physician can now refer you to a pharmacist for these specific issues, and use point of care testing, which I have on the screen here. Point of care testing being anything that happens outside of a lab or a hospital. Really broad catch-all term, point of care testing. Could be like COVID tests to your blood glucose meter if you have diabetes, or the machines that we use. So this is a really, on top of pharmacy being a huge business going through the sea change, point of care testing has got like a 9.6 CAGR. It's growing like crazy. It's going to triple or quadruple in size from the beginning of this decade to the end of it. And so we're in this sort of intersection where the brick and mortar business, a pharmacy, has this opportunity to fill a very critical gap, where there will still very much need to be a physical human-to-human contact with a healthcare professional, where someone's going to have to actually physically see you. The testing gives the physician the confidence that they've got data that they can rely on. And I'll speak a little bit more about that in a second. And they can make a clinical decision in a collaborative way in real time and get patients through what is normally a convoluted process of multiple visits to a clinic, and then a lab, and then back, and then pharmacy, and so on. They can do it in one shot, and we're seeing that already. So point of care testing in the community pharmacy is gone from a nice to do to being absolutely critical to day-to-day survival, even as a business. To your point also, many of the pharmacies communicate to us that they view Amazon, not the other pharmacy down the road, as a competition. And so, it's all well and good that someone can send you the medications to your home, but people still need services, and those are going to need to be done in person. So patients are driving this conversation, and I want to underscore that there's lots of point of care testing devices, and there's been many launches and of programs in pharmacies. None of them have been patient driven in the way that we are. And we have blown the doors off in terms of the volume and patient uptake and engagement, as well as the scalability of it. So the patient had to be a part of this. And one of our unique attributes is that the patient, along with the healthcare practitioner, gets this information in real time, can use this information to make decisions, and they own their information. They're involved in this process, and they're driving the activity. So many people on here may have already done their 23andMe and done their genetics, or they have apps on their phone, or they're wearing a smartwatch, which is looking at biometrics. More and more people are focused on their health and concerned about their longevity. And the pharmacy has a critical role to play with point of care testing. So we're focused on building the world's largest network and the most reliable network of point-of-care testing instruments in pharmacy globally. And it's an extraordinarily exciting time for this to occur. And we are by far the first to be successful in this. And we think that we're going to dominate this space globally. This is a brief schematic so it helps wrap the mind around what HealthTab is. HealthTab is not just an instrument, and it's not just a software. It is a platform. It is a turnkey solution for the pharmacy. So we offer them for the first time a patient-facing and engaging, along with a really powerful backend and clinical attributes to the software side of things, matched with instruments which are typically found in hospital settings or small labs. And we merge all that together and offer them an easy plug in the wall, get going today solution where they have all the best tools, tests, and solutions to get testing right away. So the patient creates an account, they answer some information in a customized health survey that is then matched with data in real time. It's all merged automatically in the cloud. Our software is doing the various formulas to make sure that the results are the best clinical value possible. And then the patient receives that information along with the healthcare team because they've provided consent. They've, are owning their data, so to speak, as per law. And we also are generating de-identified data, which is critical for research purposes, which is a very powerful point to make as the pharmacy is increasingly being looked at as the best place to conduct therapy monitoring and even clinical trials. Walgreens and Walmart in the United States both announced this summer clinical trial divisions. So you're going to see a lot more of this type of focus in the pharmacy. And the irony is that they've announced these divisions. They don't have the tools really to do it. So we have a solution here, and it's the most sophisticated and the most scalable. So we're very, very bullish on our ability to be able to serve this demand. So currently,
on the clinical trial stuff, that basically means, let's say I enroll in some clinical trial, I take a pill every day to do whatever. And then part of that is I maybe go to the pharmacy to get my blood tested every day to see if whatever markers are up and down so that they can collect the data so I don't have to go downtown or some. So it's just easier for people to participate. They can collect it cheaper, easier, and better. And then they can have wider rollouts of and more effective phase 1, 2, 3 trials for different drug
100%.
regimes or protocols.
And you might not even need to enroll them. In this particular case, the individual is providing consents up front, but that data is being agreed to be shared. But the individual, it's even better when you can study somebody that they haven't proactively, like they don't even know. Like the blinder, the better. So
just big population studies of lots of blood tests and these correlates with that and so forth. All right.
Yeah, it's truly real world. Yeah, people. Yeah. And so, and this is all feasible and we can do this now. And so we think that there's going to be, as we grow in size, more and more demand for this. But in the near term, we're offering something that's absolutely critical. And that are the biomarkers that are really the big killers. Pre-diabetes, diabetes, heart disease, liver and kidney function, and some infectious diseases. We'll talk about that in a second. But the interface, the user experience, from the patient side and from the practitioner side, very easy to read, easy to interpret. It's very similar to a 23andMe or something along that line where you're clicking through, there's pop-ups, you can understand what the results mean, and it allows you to track over time. You can see how you're improving or not improving on a particular therapy or dietary change or lifestyle change. And so what we're already seeing and hearing from the pharmacies is that therapy adherence is up considerably, meaning people are staying on their medication, staying on their action plan, and people's outcomes are dramatically improving. Where people, publicly released in the initial pilot that we did, we found about 247 people with diabetes that were undiagnosed, which was massive. The nice thing to hear is that over time now we're seeing those individuals get down into a more manageable range, going from a HbA1c of like 11 into the sort of the 6 range where you kind of want to be. So, this is really powerful. And that's why, we've been so successful this year, is that government is obviously very keen to see these types of results, and pharmacy is very proud to be able to deliver it. But most importantly, the patient has this information and can empower themselves and stay on track. And it's really, really critical that the patient was engaged. So we do we offer and have, thanks to our partners at Abbott, the ability to distribute 3 instruments primarily that we focus on, and the correlating tests. And so we offer this as a part of our solution. What we've been rolling out thus far is the Afinion 2, which is on the left-hand side, and that is focused on HbA1c and lipids, so heart disease. This has been wildly successful. We have about 420 locations now and growing, and we are excited for the new year as we believe that there's a very strong argument for iStat in community pharmacy, which will do the kidney and liver function. The holy grail for everybody to understand, and time will change, and the reason why we're not in the instrument business is that instruments and tests will change. And so we are not limited in any way. We can do deals with different manufacturers, of course, but the tests available on the particular machines or the focuses on the machines can change over time. So that allows us that flexibility, and we're not as vulnerable as just being in the instrument business.
So you collect the data regardless of which instrument or testing device comes out. If there's a new thing that tests whatever, you just sort of plug it in and you'll collect those data points.
100%. And so, the holy grail will be one day if, one machine could do HbA1c, the lipids, and be able to do the liver and kidney panels that you need. Currently, globally, there isn't a machine that does all that. They always do 2 out of 3, which isn't bad, as the song says. But the iStat, we can run multiple instruments at a particular location. It doesn't really matter. So, we do think that there is a big argument for liver and kidney function in the pharmacy, and so we'll be looking to that in 2023. But everybody should know that we are also already piloting in a collaboration with Abbott and Shoppers Drug Mart, the ID Now. And so we have 5 locations going where we're testing for infectious disease in pharmacy. And so it's under the guise of research. This isn't something, you asked about scope of practice. Technically, pharmacists this is one of the areas where they're limited. But we're hopeful that the research will show that, as we've seen with vaccination distribution and other services in pharmacy, will be successful. So the ID Now is different from the other 2 machines on your screen in that it's a swab, it's a molecular test, it's a confirmatory test. It's not like the rapid tests, antigen tests. This is like a thermonucleic acid molecular test under the broad umbrella of PCR. You've heard that term. So this is a machine that would tell you if you have these infectious disease, which is really interesting because strep can present as the flu. And so there's also an overuse of antibiotics. And if you can demonstrate to patients that they don't need antibiotics, then or they do, then you're making the right clinical decision. But you're doing it on an evidence base. But that will never be the volume or the focus. The chronic disease is going to, again, it affects almost every Canadian, every American, every European, every Asian, everybody, everywhere and around the world. It doesn't matter what part of the world you go into. Diabetes and heart disease and liver and kidney disease is on the rise and is in the majority of the population. So there's years and years and years and years of work to at a very high level to be able to do to get through this and to bring those numbers down. So just in our immediate, talking about how the business works, there's over 100,000 pharmacies in Canada, the United States, UK, EU. Those would be jurisdictions that you could easily address right now. So lots of opportunity for us to grow in the years ahead. The way that, in simple terms, the way that our business model works is that we charge a system fee per location. So right now it averages $250 a month, and that's for the Afinion. course, it comes up a bit every time you add an analyzer. But just on, we're modeling most of it, just assuming one instrument for now. And we also,
sorry.
Yep.
So the system costs how many? So for plugging in an Affinity Affinion 2 into the Health Tab system, so you collect data from it, you'll charge a pharmacy $250-ish for it to be plugged in for the month, and that's a recurring sort of SaaS revenue.
Correct. Yeah. So it includes the instrument, and it includes Health Tab as the software, as the clinical software. As also, it includes our quality assurance program, where we use one of only 5 labs approved by the CDC to do reference method observation. It's based here in Vancouver. It's called Sequel. And we also provide this oversight, which is the only point of care testing program to do so. This is the same program that would be used by a major lab. So it makes Health Tab, from a clinical practice point of view, we believe the most sophisticated program available. So that's included in the system fee. Then we also are distributing the tests as part of our one window opportunity offering. So we're able to get the best prices from the manufacturer for the pharmacy, and drive down the per test cost. And obviously we're doing considerably higher volumes than these machines would normally do just out there on their own, not hooked up to Health Tab. So it's a great win-win for both the manufacturer and for the pharmacist and for us. And we're generating a good margin on that.
Hector?
So, yeah.
Sir, on the baseline, can you go back one slide? Sorry. It says they're currently in 32 Shoppers Drug Mart locations. Is that a current number?
No. It's like over 416.
That's what I thought. So that, okay.
Yeah, I'm going to be updating this for the new year, but it's sorry, I didn't update that yet. But we're in about 420 locations today. All right. And it'll be growing in the new year. So, what does it look like a revenue on a store basis? So, some people like to think about it that way. So, baseline, they will do about $1,000 a month, and that's kind of doing the bare minimum. And then we have stores that really blow the doors off and are doing like 160 patients a week. So there's people that are quite enthusiastic about it. We don't think the superstar stores are outliers. They're just really windows into the future. It's really important to remember that maybe this is true innovation. This isn't like a commodity. This isn't something that is mass adopted yet. It's in the process. This is like the early days of smartphones or, social media. It's something that people are signing on for now, and it's something that's going to grow considerably for the next several years as this becomes the norm. And the pharmacy practice, there'll always be a certain percentage of stores that are very service focused and some that'll be not. But the reality is that even the baseline stores do very, very well. So, but we think that we like to point out that the high achieving stores are really kind of where the average is going, because this is just going to get more adopted. Patients are going to get more used to it, more accustomed to accessing it, and stronger demand for it. And so to this point, we have an agreement up to 450 locations in this current phase of scale. We expect that to grow dramatically with Shoppers, but we also will be growing with pharmacy chains domestically in Canada, other pharmacy chains in Canada, and we do anticipate to be international by the end of Q1 in 2023. So we will be talking more about that soon. But we see that we're only scratching the surface. We're able to easily scale up this year. We showed that we were able to do it in a self-funded manner, quickly, reliably. And there's a lot of businesses that have a lot of blue sky in front of them. But the question is, can you scale? Can you deliver? In 2022, we proved that we can, and we have.
Hector, going back to sort of the model at Shoppers, and you've rolled out 450. What does it, and you charge the monthly fee, and that includes the Affinion 2 there. Is the revenues Do you own the Afinion too, or is it like kind of a lease program that flows through you from Abbott?
Yeah.
Or how does
No,
can you just explain that a little bit?
yeah, we buy them.
Okay.
And then what we do is that we turn around and the repay on the machine, I don't want to get too far into it. It's a short repay. So
Okay.
we are able to reclaim that capital back in a decent amount of time. And that means that ongoing revenue is more SaaS related, the way they kind of think of it. We've also, and thanks to our partners at Abbott, and I have Daniel St. Pierre's comments up on the screen, but they've really been fantastic. We have a lot of opportunity to mature this relationship globally and to do so much more together. And we're really proud of this relationship. And I think that they're really excited about what we've proven to do. And let me tell you, like, they never thought that we would be able to do more than 400 Afinions in a year. So, let alone the volume that we do on the machines. So, we are, definitely setting off alarms around the world as to what's possible within their organization. So, to that point, we have very good terms in terms of having not only pricing, but also warranty. So if something goes sideways, as a manufacturer, they stand behind their machine. And so we're not as exposed in the first 2 years on anything breaking.
I'm just sort of a 420 Afinion 2 machines out there. I'm thinking globally, there are not that many clients who would buy 420 units. That would be a pretty large hospital chain or whatever, or a testing chain, or a rollout in
the conventional business versus like the pharmacy. Yeah, for sure.
That's got to be you've got to be, sort of, you're raising some eyebrows at Abbott saying, hey, who the heck are we selling these 420 units to? That's pretty good.
Oh, well, we're already a third of the global production of the lipid panels.
Wow. Okay. Wow.
So they're having to ramp up production. Yeah. So, and they're definitely watching this program very closely. But the reality is pharmacy is such a sea change difference in the point of care testing world. I mean, it's so much to your point. Like, a pharmacy is not going to buy, or a hospital isn't really going to buy a whole lot of these machines, or doctor's offices or whatever. I mean, they will do a few dozen fails in a year normally in a particular jurisdiction. Pharmacy really is a massive opportunity in terms of not only number of machines, but also the volume of patients that you would come through. Because their business, you could easily argue, is very much like the printer business, the home printer business, where, the machine is the machine, but the real opportunity for them is being able to service that machine over time. And, the problem is that when these machines are placed in pharmacy without us, the utilization is low. To put it mildly, it's a real challenge.
Because the data is like on an island. You can't really do anything to it. You got to go there. The pharmacist prints it out or whatever, but it's not accessible. It's not shareable. There's no kind of
it's just noise. It's noise to the patient, because it's like, okay, well, you tested me and I had this conversation and that was 6 months ago and I don't really remember where it was and I lost that piece of paper, and like, you know what I mean? Like, it's just it goes nowhere, right? And so this is the same kind of problem with labs too, right? It's people will often say, well, why wouldn't someone just go to the lab? Because pharmacists in Alberta, for example, can send you to the lab. But they are excited for point of care testing, even though they can send you to the lab, because just because you give a patient a lab requisition, which means you can go to the lab, they don't go. Like, if you've gone once in your life, you won't do it. You won't waste your whole day again, like, unless you're really concerned, right? And for chronic disease, this is the real problem. It's like so embedded in our culture that people have just sort of accepted that one day they will have type 2 diabetes or heart disease. It doesn't have to be something that you accept. Nobody here on this call should accept that from our healthcare system, and nobody should accept for themselves. Nobody wants their loved ones to go through all that, and it's easily solvable. It's just a matter of using the pharmacy better. And I can't underscore it enough. Policy and the business side and technology are all merging at the same time for that to happen now. And so this is being adopted as we speak, and we are presenting the best solution, one of the best tools they could possibly have to do this. So to that point, we're first to market. very easily integrated. It's very plug and play. We're pharmacy focused. We don't color outside the lines, and we think that you really got to be the best at what you do and be really focused. And so we don't get distracted by chasing things. We focus on pharmacy. The opportunity is so big. Quality control, nobody offers better quality instruments combined with better quality clinical software, let alone the QC program that we offer from people. Like, nobody comes close to us on this. And the data being harmonized, and the fact that the machines are all connected over the cloud. Like, we see issues within a network in real time. So if there's an outlier machine or something like that, if something goes down, we see it immediately. So we respond in real time to those issues. So nobody else can offer that. And it's patient-centered. And I can't underscore this enough. It's so critical to the success of the program. Patients love HealthTab. The post testing surveys are like through the roof. People are so satisfied with their experience. They're so there's so many heart-wrenching testimonials about individuals that have had a real challenge getting taken seriously in the healthcare system traditionally. But the fact that their pharmacists offered them this opportunity, and that they got this data, and that they can make an evidence-based decision, and they feel like there's some control, that healthcare makes sense for them again, is really powerful. And I'll close this up by saying that I was told by somebody in the audience who was recently attending the graduating class of pharmacy students at UBC here in Vancouver. One of the students that was chosen to speak, I don't know if they were the valedictorian, but whatever the term was, that they gave a speech that had the entire audience in tears about her practicum in a Shoppers Drug Mart here in the Lower Mainland, and she got to work with HealthTab. And as the story goes, she feels that they saved a woman's life by being able to intervene and interject at this critical moment in this individual who otherwise was not being captured by healthcare as usual. So, the data is overwhelming to show that there is just so many people walking around with late stage and very serious disease out there. And the pharmacies with point of care testing is the best place to do it. But the patient has to feel like they're a part of the process. Otherwise, it doesn't work. An individual won't stay on their therapy, and they won't adhere to a program. So it has to personally connect with them. And that's what we're really proud that we do and nobody else does. So Shoppers Drug Mart, I've taken a lot of your time, but I just want to quickly close out. But Shoppers Drug Mart, Canada's largest pharmacy chain, is part of the Loblaws group. I want to underscore for everyone that while we anticipate scaling further with Shoppers Drug Mart, of course, and we're in the process of determining what that's going to be and how fast and when, and we'll talk more about that soon. But we know that there's a lot of excitement on their end. Our current agreement also allows us to work with quote unquote affiliates, which means Loblaws, the Loblaws side of the business, which is the grocery side of the business. So we're ahead of schedule on that. I dream of dreams. we thought like we would do well with Shoppers Drug Mart. We knew that. But we thought it would be a while before we'd be able to win over the other side of the business, which is even larger on the grocery side. So we're already in several real Canadian superstores. They're putting us in things like No Frills and independent grocers and things like that in Ontario. So really, really exciting to see.
Are they put it, though they must be with like superstores and so forth, ones that have an integrated pharmacy in them already? You're not just next to the tomatoes. You're part of the you're part of their built-in pharmacy.
We're in the candy aisle, just testing people, going, "Yes, stop it." But no, it's they have integrated pharmacies. Obviously, not every grocery store does, but a lot of them do, and. Right. It's been wildly successful. So, just touching base on the pilot, that data is public, and we can talk about it, is that 80% of patients learn something new about their health, but data like 30% of patients walked out of the door with a new prescription. Like more than 28% had a dosage adjustment. 3 in 5 patients had a direct intervention in their health. So these numbers, and for those that don't know, my background is politics and government, and I've been elected. I've been behind the scenes. I've been on all sides of the table. I've been obviously private sector, public sector. Spent a lot of time around these issues from a political and governance perspective. These numbers are staggering and deeply, deeply impactful. These are really matters. Very difficult in healthcare to make an investment and see a return within 5 years. But you can deploy HealthTab now and see a real meaningful, or let's just say, scope of practice change in pharmacy and see a real meaningful impact on patients immediately. So this is exciting, and the data is driving a lot of this conversation, and we're really proud to be a part of this. It's one of the things that got me excited about joining the company. I, having left politics, was wondering what I was going to do with myself, and being invited to join this group, I immediately, if it was about HealthTab, I was all for it. I saw immediately the demand and the need, and to this point, taking what I was just saying and showing what this means, literally cutting a ribbon and seeing a direct impact on patients. This picture is from Lethbridge, Alberta, and that's the Jeff Leger, the president of Shoppers Drug Mart in the gray suit, with the health minister, then health minister, anyways, I don't know if you know this, of Alberta. And Lethbridge is a city of about 100,000 people, and a third of them don't have access to primary care. And so Alberta and the Maritimes and now Ontario are all pioneering this really fantastic model of a walk-in clinic that's led by pharmacists. So it's within the scope of practice of pharmacy. So it's not a full-fledged like doctor's office, of course. They're not able to do all the things. But for a lot of the things that really eat up a lot of time for a physician that maybe is not the highest and best use of their time, things like prescription renewals or minor ailments like an eczema or like a minor cold or something like that, the pharmacist can deal with this. And particularly a lot of the touching base around chronic disease and management, where they're not necessarily being diagnosed and not necessarily needing direct treatment, but it's just the making sure that they are staying on their therapy and that they're getting the advice along the way. The pharmacist is, by government's view, is said that this is the right model. So these pharmacy walk-in clinics we're really proud to support. We're located in there. We're offering a Finian and ID now, and we're very bullish on where this is going in Canada and how we can serve them. So just to run you through a couple of quick slides before I let you go, but the roadmap for 2022, I would say we've checked these boxes. We've scaled up with Shoppers. Our business development hopper is well down the path on expanding the network amongst Canadian pharmacies. We've certainly driven the volume. Like I said, we've really excelled, and people are amazed by what we've been able to accomplish on that side. And we are very bullish about our ability to capture new markets in the new year, and be international. So we'll be updating this as we go along, but we're really excited about how this year went. And 2023 is going to be amazing. So to that point, we've done that with keeping our expenses low. We've done all this self-funded. We've managed our resources very well. We just spent a bunch of money on analyzers, obviously, to do this scale, but we're already starting to recover that capital. And HealthTab is, as we recently announced, cash flow positive. And we expect Avricore will be able to achieve cash flow positivity by Q2 of next year. And
sorry, Hector, just to clarify, HealthTab, the sub entity on like an operating basis, is profitable, but Avricore has some overhead costs. So in Q2, that's when the overall company expects to be cash flow positive.
That's right. Okay. So, I think if you saw from our Q3 results, you can see that there's a lot of businesses that can do a lot of gross revenue, but if you look at what they clear at the end of the day, that's not a lot. I think, if you look at our Q3 results, it's not an anomaly. It's something that's going to continue to go on. And we've always argued that we've built the business to generate very strong margins and strong cash positions. So that's something you're going to see from us, and we're going to allow us to remain self-funded and not necessarily have to go to markets to raise. Our cap table as it stands, we have a good handle on who owns what, and the options out there are the team and insiders. So we have and most obviously all of it's in the money. So people are exercising that. So we'll realize some of this money, but it's people that are committed to the company, and it's And there's not that like sort of founder shares and all that kind of stuff. The publicly traded vehicle is a mature vehicle, and we're getting more and more into the realm of being able to be attractive to the institutional investor. So we're seeing a lot more of that support. So we're going to be continuing to mature that story in 2023. How we do that is part of our sort of high, medium, low sensitivity around projections. We have a very robust model that we use, but this is sort of a simplified, boiled down version of what would happen if you have a certain number of stores, a certain number of tests per day. And it gives you an idea of what happens to the business. So the low we think is very achievable. It'd be basically us just doing again what we did this year, which we don't anticipate just doing that. So that's one example. And then, if we are really able to excel and, on a physical basis or on a reality basis, we would be able to achieve these numbers credibly. We'd be able to service this. So you can see what is feasible and what is possible and what happens gross versus net margins. So we're really proud of what all this looks like and what is attainable. And so to that point, so going a little bit further, cash on hand, what we expect these various models and projections would end up looking like. Obviously, if you have this sort of level of cash on hand, I always say that money doesn't buy you happiness, but it certainly gives you options. And so the nice thing is today we have choices, we have flexibility, but in the future we anticipate having the choice and flexibility as the parent entity to do a lot of things with having the cash on hand, which we don't think a lot of businesses in 2023, let alone in 2022, have. So we think that this is a powerful part of our story. And so we, yes.
Sorry. On like these low, medium, and high growth projections, obviously you start generating cash in short order, but as you grow, you still got to buy equipment and deploy them and so forth. Do you have enough capital on hand now to sort of grow through that, or is there a chance you may need to, let's say, add in some capital, raise a bit of dough as growth capital to help put the accelerator on, so to speak?
We have built this, maybe I'm just old fashioned, but we believe in running a profitable business and using our money to grow. And so predominantly that's going to be the focus. Now that we have agreements in hand and cash flow in hand, we do anticipate perhaps more conventional debt vehicles where more of a line of credit or something along that line. So we're in discussions around that. It's I won't go too far off on my tirade around what's wrong with the Canadian banking system and how it doesn't support innovation. But the reality is that they are now knocking on our door and they can see what we've been saying the entire time, that we are not theoretical and that we are a growing concern, solid business with a solid foundation. So we think that we would like to be able to do it without dilution. Obviously, if an opportunity of a lifetime came up and you had to do 10,000 stores really quickly, in an extreme circumstance, you would probably have to go to the markets. But barring that,
financing through lease options or factoring or whatever, or lines of credit, you should be able to scale up the business unless there's some significant change.
We think with a blending between cash flow and a conventional debt vehicle that would just sort of smooth it out. That's the only thing we're really considering at the moment. But we think that we can grow aggressively with what we have on hand, revenues, cash flow, and
without having to tap the capital markets. You should be able to go without that.
Okay. Yeah, I'm Heller. It's my last resort.
Gotcha. All right. Sorry. Just I wanted to clarify that point.
Yeah.
We do have a question here from the audience. Is that your deal with Shoppers, is that all exclusive, or can you sell to, let's say here in Western Canada, to a London Drugs or other pharmacies or other grocery integrated stores, or is there anyone you're excluded from selling to? Let's put it that way.
No, we're not excluded by anybody. And it's great. Actually, I would say our partners at Shoppers have been really fantastic about this. I think they look at it as a rising tide lifts all boats, and they really would prefer to see pharmacy in general embracing the service-based model, because it obviously incentivizes government to put money on the table, which is something I would underscore and have all of you watch very closely in the new year, is really be paying attention to government announcements around funding of primary care in Canada. If you look at the NHS in Britain, they've already made billions in investment in this area. They are already moving more primary care into the community pharmacy. That's a country with almost twice the population of ours, but they have a publicly managed and owned healthcare system like we do. And the program in pharmacy is wildly successful there. So the reality is that when public funding would come to community pharmacy, that would dramatically increase the volumes that we would anticipate. Something else that you can, when talking about projections and our forward-looking estimations, it's important to recognize, as great as we're doing right now, you have to remember that the pharmacies have done very little in terms of conventional promotions of the program. Like it hasn't really been marketed, so to speak. Like there's sort of a little bit of, now we have signage in stores. You're starting to see that now. And you'll see a lot more of that in the new year as the flu season wanes, and they'll be promoting it more. But we also know that in 2023, Shoppers will be doing a push, putting considerable resources behind drawing people in. Right now, they're just kind of relying on the individual pharmacies looking at their own patient lists and sort of suggesting it to individuals. It's been wildly successful just with that. But you have to understand, like, we're only scratching the surface of what we can do. So when I say those baseline stores are doing X, that once they have a push, once they have, a lot of them are only doing $1,000 a month because they don't have the resources to have someone on the phone trying to book appointments. You imagine now if you've got bus shelter ads saying come to Shoppers Drug Mart and get tested now. We expect that's going to do great things for our business as well.
Well, I would think they wouldn't do that until they have a large enough you don't want to announce it on day one when you've got it in 10 stores, do a big promotion on it. You got to make sure you've built out the footprint before you start drawing people in. With the
this is it.
240 stores that are out there right now, what's the rough geographical sort of breakdown of them? Is it primarily Ontario, or are they kind of spreading it out evenly across Canada?
Yeah, it's 420. They're in BC, Alberta, Ontario, Nova Scotia, and New Brunswick.
Okay.
I believe there might be one in Newfoundland.
Okay.
Yeah. But if you go to healthtab.com, at the bottom of the page, there's a store locator. And if you click on that, you just type your address in or what city you live in, and it'll bring up the stores that are close to you. Which I saw the question in the chat there to ask it is like, are we aware of what Shoppers is doing to promote it? So I think I touched base on that a little bit. So right now it's kind of elbow grease, and you have to remember, I'm getting over a cold, so sorry for the sniffling. The two issues, we're really proud. We've been a wild success despite it. But you have to remember that our program has been running, our pilot ran in the midst of COVID, still was a wild success. The pilot did. And then during the scale up, it ended up being timed sort of right when flu season has been hitting. So, and obviously, if you've read the news, this has been one of the worst flu seasons on record. It's, everybody's caught the flu. I've caught it 2 weeks ago. I'm still got the sniffles from it. COVID's going around, RSV is going around. I need to underscore for people, the healthcare system is extremely taxed as we sit here right now. That will wane as we get to January and things will start to normalize. But we've had a really intense season. So the marketing is shifting over to chronic disease, which is us, and you'll see the health tab advertising in store in the new year, and then they're going to be doing more of a push. We're also connected to the Loblaw Shoppers Data Lake, as it's called. So now their data analytics team is using, they have a very advanced, sophisticated team that are using data now to drill down on patient needs. And so we expect a lot of that's going to inform how they're going to do patient outreach, and which is great. It's going to be more efficient, and you're going to be touching the right people that need the service. And so all of that means really great things. And the last thing I would say, to their credit, pharmacy in general, along with our partners at Abbott, have been doing some really great work. We don't have to do it on the government relations side. They are very much at the table with government right now, and the conversations, I think, are all going in the right direction in terms of achieving funding models for pharmacy where they will be remunerated for more of this work. Right now, the way that they do it is they include the test as a part of a consultation, but there's a near-term future where government will be paying pharmacists to screen for diabetes, support a patient with diabetes and heart disease, and doing that work in the community pharmacy, which just, order of magnitude, huge impact on the demand for what we're doing. So, we have every reason to believe that 2023 is going to be exceptional.
All right. I have a question here in terms of your footprint across Canada. What are the plans for Quebec? Do you have any stores there? And Quebec's always a little unique in how they operate with the language and that. What thoughts on Quebec?
Yeah, we can easily address the Quebec market. Shifting over on the language piece of it it's more. They're very unique. If obviously everything is different in Quebec, and so generally speaking, we know it's been identified to us even by Shoppers Loblaws, which they operate a Pharmaprix brand in Quebec. I think they view that market as a great place to grow from our understanding. Obviously, I think they're maybe fourth in that market, where I don't think they're used to, that's not normally a place where they are. They're usually, the biggest. So I would see some focus there in the not too distant future. What that looks like, it's really driven by the client or customer. I mean, what they decide to do, but it will be depending also on how the negotiations go with the Ministry of Health there as to, and the College of Pharmacists as to, what's going to happen. But I suspect that they will eventually go in the direction that we'd all like to see, and that is over and above business reasons. I think everybody here needs to be excited. The reason that you're supporting Avricore, the reason why you're believe in Health Tab is not just because it's a great business, and I'm really proud of it from a business point of view, but it has a bigger reason to exist, and that is it is democratizing truly, and it is truly making it universal to access preventative health in an advanced way, and that is necessary. It's needed. It's no more time needed than now, and we are presenting a piece of the solution, a very critical piece of the solution that public healthcare systems around the world desperately need, and that is how do you reduce the over-reliance on the more expensive acute care, and how do you move into preventative care and more community care, and have better outcomes for patients at a lower spend. And so, this is something that is meeting an inherent need and demand, and somebody's going to fill it. I think we have the best solution, and we're being viewed globally as now a lot of people, I want to tell you, I get feedback all the time from around the world. People are watching this program very, very closely. And so I think the next couple of years is going to be a very, very exciting time for the company as it expands.
All right. Well, I think I'm out of questions here. We're not getting any more out of the audience here. So, and we're in an hour into this. So why don't we wrap things up? Any final comments or tie the bow on it, so to speak?
Well, I just want to thank people. I know, there's people have been longtime supporters and believers, and really grateful to you, and also really appreciate anybody listening to our story for the first time. I just believe that what we're doing, as I said, is so critical. I think we're so grossly under what I think we're worth, but I think that we have a lot of room to grow. I think people are, my point in mentioning that is I think that people are starting to catch on to our story. I think that we have a long way to go. We're not near our top end. We're just starting to scratch the surface of where our objectives are. And we're going to demonstrate that we're going to walk out our business plan. We're going to deliver. We're going to achieve. Anybody that's followed that knows us, that, you know, I'm not big on announcing things for the sake of announcing things, or, you know, when we say something it's meaningful, and but also ask for people's patience sometimes. You know, we're dealing with very large players, very complex organizations, and it takes a while for these things to occur. And sometimes there's a lot of sensitivities about when things are said and how they're said and all the rest of it. So, you know, bear with us on that. But, you know, it's something I always have to navigate. But I'm just closing the thought by saying, I think if you look back as to what we said we were going to do and what we've done, we do it. So, you know, I think when we say that we have a bright future ahead of us, I think you can believe it.
All right. Hector, thanks a lot. I appreciate that. Great update. Looking forward to the holiday season, and then looking forward to seeing some great performance out of Avricore in the coming year. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Well, it's always great to chat. Looking forward to seeing you soon.